Assalamu alaikum, I'm Hiba.
And I'm Zaid,
You're listening to Diary of a Matchmaker.
a podcast that will take you into our world as matchmakers.
We'll share our experiences and offer advice for the single Muslim.
So let's dive in.
Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome to another episode. My name is Zaid and on the other mic is my wife and co-host Hiba.
Assalamu alaikum.
So we got an interesting story to share with you guys.
No, it's not one of our clients.
It's not one of our clients. It's not something from our courting days or our single days. But believe it or not, it's actually a story from the Quran. And as we were preparing for the episode and just reviewing the story and the ayat, it's amazing how much we were able to extract from these ayahs that relate to the work we're doing and just has so many modern day lessons that we can take.
Yeah.
So without further ado, shall we just dive right into the story?
Bismillah.
Bismillah. Okay.
So this is the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam and his marriage story. And it's actually the only proposal that's mentioned in the Quran in detail.
Yeah.
So it must be for a good reason. I mean, it's not... So first of all, it's mentioned in Surah Al-Qasas, verses 23 to 28. And it's not just mentioned there because like Surah Qasas talks about the story of Prophet Musa from the day he was born till very like late stage in his life. No, it's not just a part of that, but it has significance. And that's why Allah mentioned it here.
Before we get into the proposal part of the story, what was happening in Prophet Musa alayhi salam's life at this stage in the surah?
So at this stage, Prophet Musa had fled from Egypt because he unintentionally killed a man. He was a refugee. He just arrived to a new land. He was a refugee. He knew nobody there. He didn't have any money. Even though he grew up in Pharaoh's palace, he didn't have any authority. He was scared. He didn't have family with him. And that's the context. So the ayat starts by narrating that when Prophet Musa arrived to the land of Madian, which is modern-day Saudi, he found a well. And around this well were a group of people. They were watering their herds of animals. And he saw two girls. They were just holding back their herds of animals, standing. And he found that strange. He asked them, what's the matter? And they said, we can't water our herds of animals until the rest of the shepherds are done. And we have a very old father. Why did they say that? Because it's obvious that what was going through Prophet Musa's head, why would the girls be doing the watering, right? Like it's usually a man's job. So without them even asking him, he volunteered. He watered their animals. And without saying anything, he watered their animals and then he retreated to a shade. He sat there and he made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, Allah, whatever provision you provide me, I'm in need for it right now. You could say I'm in desperate need. We said he's a refugee. He has no money.
The specific words used in the Quran is min khairin faqir.
Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir.
Yeah.
So after a while, one of those two girls came back and she told him, my father is inviting you to reward you for the work you did for us. When Prophet Musa went and talked to the father, and he told him all about his history, all about Pharaoh, how he fled from Egypt, all of that, the old man told him, don't be afraid. You're safe here. Allah saved you from the wrongdoing people. So one of the girls suggested to her father saying, Ya abati. And Ya abati is a term of endearment when you call your father, oh dear father, which already implies that they had a good relationship, father and daughter, right? And she said, oh dear father, why don't you employ him, hire him to water our animals? The best person you can hire is somebody who's strong and who's trustworthy. He was able to push his way through a crowd of people, water the animals, and she saw that he was trustworthy. He didn't ask for anything in exchange. He didn't start chatting with her. He just retreated to the shade. And that's actually a very good advice. If you're an employer, you're looking to hire somebody, look for someone who's strong, and strong could mean physically strong to do physical labor, or somebody who's strong as in he has the knowledge that it takes to do the job, whether it's C++ programming, whether it's whatever it is, and someone who's trustworthy. The father, you could say out of the blue, but you're going to see that it's not out of the blue. He told Musa, alayhi salam, I want to marry one of my daughters to you in exchange for you working for me 8 years. Now, did the father just decide this randomly? What do you think?
I don't know.
No, the father apparently had a great communication with his daughter, and he inferred from the suggestion of his daughter, oh, daddy, hire him. Like, he inferred that she was kind of telling him that
she was interested.
She was interested, exactly. And I want to marry one of my daughters to you in exchange for you working for me for 8 years. If you would work for 10 years, then that's a favor from you. But you will, inshallah, find me a good, agreeable person. I don't intend to overwork you. Prophet Musa said, okay, this is an agreement between you and me. Whatever term I complete, this is up to me. Allah is the witness for this agreement between the two of us. Now, that's the story. It seems like, okay, it's just a story in the Quran, but believe us when we say the lessons are endless. Hey, if you have a story to tell, we'd love to have you on. Here you'll find a safe space of listeners who can understand what you're going through. Just shoot us an email with a summary of your story at info@halalmatch.ca.
There is a lot to unpack from these ayat and so many lessons we can take. The first lesson that we want to highlight is the value of character and integrity. And it was because of Musa alayhi salam's character and integrity that eventually got him married.
Now, bear in mind, at this point, he wasn't even a prophet.
Right. And as guys, I feel like sometimes we undervalue something. Like, everybody talks about character and integrity, and we just, it's one of those things I feel like people just take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't give it as much weight, or if not the most weight, when compared to things like education and career and financial stability.
Yeah, especially parents. Like, some of them, alhamdulillah, they give the most weight to character and don't care as much for the education, the career, the income, because at the end of the day, they know this person should be trusted with their daughter and he's going to treat her well.
Yeah.
But a lot of other people, the first thing they ask about is how much you make and where your parents from, and character takes a backseat.
Yeah, to be honest though, I have to say that in my personal life, I found that to be the minority, where parents value integrity and character more. That's just because I've had a rough journey trying to get married. So I haven't seen a lot of that personally. But yeah, I mean, alhamdulillah, your parents were an exception. They didn't put so much weight on money and career and those things. So we don't want to say that it's all doom and gloom for you guys out there.
Yeah.
There are some parents that do value those things. And but the most important thing is that don't underestimate how much of a part that can play when finding a compatible spouse.
Yeah, selflessness, willing to help others.
So, some girls on the registration really highlight the value of community service.
Exactly, volunteering.
Yeah. So don't underestimate that.
It's very attractive for a girl, by the way.
Exactly. Lesson number 2, the importance of divine timing and patience. So I've mentioned before that my journey spanned about 9 years. And when my prayer was answered, it was a time that I didn't expect. It was a time where I felt like I was at the end of the road and I was about to give up. But Allah blessed me at a time, when I think back, Allah blessed me at a time that was right for me. So the important thing to know when looking at Musa alayhi salam's story is that first and foremost, he was making dua to Allah,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that when we are taking action, that we are also making dua.
Yes.
And we are making sure that those two things, that action and dua, are always coupled together.
Prophet Musa alayhi salam, when he helped those two girls, he didn't expect that this simple act would get him married. And by the way, he didn't just get married without even planning on it, but for 8 years now, or 10, we don't know which term he served. For that time, he was offered a place to stay. He was offered safety. He was a part of a family. He didn't have to worry about income and food. So, subhanAllah, the way Allah plans things, like just a while ago, we were talking and just reminiscing about our individual stories. And like when you're in the middle of a moment, especially if it's a hard moment, you can't see past it. And you can't understand why I'm going through this. But when you look back and you see how it's like pieces of puzzles that Allah was bringing them together for something to happen. Just one event leads to the next, leads to the next, until you get to the point where you're supposed to be. Yeah. And I feel that's what happened in our case.
Yeah, like sometimes the wisdom is apparent and sometimes it's not. But that's where faith comes in.
Of
that
course.
You understand that you can plan as all you want, but Allah is the best of planners.
I'm sure any of us, any of the listeners, if they look back, they can see how events happen to lead them to a certain point. And it's not arbitrary, it's not random. So keep that faith strong and believing in Allah's destiny. Keep that strong. It will help you go through so much.
Inshallah. The third lesson we can take from Musa alayhi salam's story is the importance of family and guardianship in marriage. And it's so beautiful, the relationship the father had with his daughter.
Yeah.
Right? Where the daughter felt comfortable saying that, she was interested in somebody. Now, of course, she didn't overtly say that. But the relationship was strong enough where the father could infer from her statements.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
She was interested.
Yeah, it just shows to the strong connection between them. And what we see today is...
I'm looking for my daughter.
Or sometimes you find people who are seeking marriage, or maybe they start a relationship and years go by and their parents are not aware. And when they bring it up to their parents, they find resistance, or maybe the parents are not on board. And it just makes it more difficult. Yeah. So, our advice is involve your parents from the beginning.
Yeah, that's what we say in our workshop too, that even before you start doing a self-assessment and you start figuring out your values and everything, the first step is talk to your parents. Make sure your parents are on board and that you guys are on the same page in terms of what your expectations are, your goals and things like that. Yeah. And inshallah, the road will get smoother from there.
Yeah, a very beautiful story from one of our clients who, mashallah, got married at 19. She was very clear from the beginning on what she wanted, and her father was on the call, and she was very open about what she was expecting, what she wanted, her plans for the future, and her father was on board. So it was so beautiful to see father and daughter having very comfortable relationship when it comes to marriage. And
she was very young but very mature for her age.
Mashallah. So our advice to you is, like we said, if you're interested in marriage, before you start the search, start talking to your parents. Get their insight. Maybe they have some feedback. Maybe they will tell you, first you need to work on this. Maybe you should perfect this before you start your search. And for the parents, also make that comfortable and make that accessible. And have that relationship with your daughter or son that they feel comfortable to come and talk to you instead of doing things behind your back.
Next important lesson is that, believe it or not, fathers can initiate the marriage process.
Astaghfirullah.
Now you were sharing something interesting about Arab culture.
Yeah, I wish we have this, it's mentioned in the Quran that we recite, and in Ramadan we recite it in Taraweeh, but then when it comes to application, no, it's aib. No, it's aib. First, the girl feels embarrassed to even let her parents know that she's interested and she's looking, right? Mm-hmm. And then, even if the parents know, they feel, no, it's aib, we can't show interest, we can't go and look for a spouse for our daughter. No, we have to wait until we get a proposal from a guy, right?
Yeah.
And it's absolutely, it has nothing to do with the deen. Khadija radiallahu anha, she proposed to the Prophet when she saw what a good character he had, and she found a way to let him know.
Yeah, it doesn't take away from your haya. It doesn't.
Not,
It
not
doesn't
at
make
all.
you a bad
Like
Muslim.
we're not saying get on one knee and propose to him and like no, but you need to be proactive. If you're on a matrimonial website, you find somebody with a who has a qualities that you're looking for in a spouse. Reach out to him. Right? If you're in a masjid and you notice somebody, then find a way to let the guy know that you're interested, whether it's like maybe asking the imam about him. Maybe you see a guy in your MSA and you see what a good character he has and he's active and he's always praying on time and all of that. Find a way.
Then where there's a will, there's a way.
There's a way. And
For
yeah,
sure.
in this story, we found the perfect example.
Yeah. If you're overwhelmed and burdened and just don't know where to seek help, let us help you. We can be your personal matchmakers. Visit us at halalmatch.ca and book a free call with us. The one lesson that I really want to highlight on is a guy's history or circumstances do not define him. Now here is Prophet Musa alayhi salam, and as you mentioned, he wasn't even a prophet yet. He was just a refugee, helping some strangers with their cattle.
Yeah, and by the way, sorry to interrupt, but remember when he got to the well of Madian, he was running away from Egypt, and he was in the desert. So you can imagine even how like his appearance looked, right?
Yeah.
In the desert, walking for miles upon miles upon miles.
He was considered a criminal back in Egypt.
But because the father recognized what a good character he has, that's what was important to him.
When I think back to my journey trying to get married, I recall a lot of situations where people would define me by my circumstances. At the time, I was living in my uncle's house. I didn't have, permanent residence or citizenship in the country. I was still trying to sort out what my future career plans were. So there were all these factors that people used to define me. Right? And make a determination about me as to whether or not I would be good enough to marry their daughter. And so obviously this doesn't come anywhere close to being a refugee in a desert alone. There are still some lessons to take from this, which is that don't let a person's circumstances define them.
Try to look beyond the circumstances.
Try to look beyond the circumstances. Look for their integrity. Look for their potential, look for what their strengths are.
Because, even if you marry your daughter to a successful doctor who's making this much and he has his own house and all of that, you never know what the future holds. Maybe his circumstances will change in the future. Maybe he will lose his job, he'll get in debt. You never know. So if he doesn't have a good character to begin with, then all that money and status isn't gonna help in the future. But if somebody has a good character, then regardless of their circumstances, they're gonna take care of your daughter. Now, parents are looking for the best interest of their daughters, of course. And of course, we're not saying just marry your daughter to anyone, whether he has a house or he's homeless, whether he has a job or just he's a bum sitting and
right. We're never going to suggest that.
We're just saying that try to look beyond the circumstances. If you see a good character and an effort that this person is taking an effort to improve his circumstances,
for sure.
Yeah.
And the last point I want to mention is never, whether you're a girl or a guy, never allow your pride or ego to get in the way of a good proposal. You never know where a good proposal may come from. And that works both ways. What I mean by that is, for example, in Musa alayhi salam's story, it could have been, he could have easily thought that this proposal or this family is too good for me. Who am I? Right? I'm just a poor, destitute man. I'm a refugee. I'm this, and this. I'm not good enough for marriage. Right? And or the other way around, where you could be XYZ, you could be super successful and you think you deserve someone better.
Yeah.
So look beyond the superficial things.
You'll never know if you don't try.
Right.
So always take initiative. People might surprise you.
Yeah. And and one more thing, the meher itself.
Oh yeah.
Yes, you can't overlook that. I mean, Father didn't say come with a Ferrari, a mansion, and an XYZ.
Yeah, because at their time they had Ferrari and Lamborghinis.
You get my point.
Yeah.
Because he understood the circumstances that he was in. So he said, you simply just have to work for me for 8 years or 10, and that would be sufficient as the meher. So take into consideration the circumstances of the guy that you're marrying. You know, if he's a teacher, don't expect like $100,000 meher. I mean, be understanding of his circumstances, and just remember the meher is not to be a burden, and it's supposed to be a gift.
And if your father-in-law or your future father-in-law offers you a job or offers you some help, don't be like, no, I can't accept it.
It's
I'm
an
better than that.
opportunity.
It's like Allah's giving you a rope, an opportunity. So
Exactly.
don't do like, what do you call it? Ta'affuf. Like, no, I'm above that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Or in
honest...
Urdu, we call it takalluf.
That's actually from Arabic.
Oh, no. Arabic took it from Urdu.
You guys stole our whole language. But yeah, honestly, there's so many more lessons to take from the story. It's a beautiful story. And the purpose of this episode is just to share something that Allah mentioned for us that's going to stay here till the end of the day. It's a story to be recited and reflected on. And for us to take lessons and apply them, and not just to recite in this beautiful melodic sound with the ahkam tajweed. There's nothing like divine advice, I guess.
Yeah.
We hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned for next episode. We'll be discussing the topic of soulmates and the concept of soulmates in Islam. If you have any questions about this topic or things you want us to discuss, just reach out through email or social media and let us know your questions, and we'll discuss them next episode, inshallah.
Inshallah. Till next time.
Assalamu alaikum.